if the percentage of suck is higher than the percentage of awesome, then you probably need to reevaluate what you're doing.
Yeah, so you did the PCT, you did the Continental Divide Trail. Any ambitions to get the Triple Crown, or is that just if it comes, whatever?
Yeah, I actually get this question somewhat
Yeah,
often.
I bet. Yeah,
I guess because it's sort of a natural question. If you do the
sure.
PPT and CDT, don't you want to get your triple crown? And it's not like I have no interest in the Appalachian Trail. You know, I would happily do section hikes on it and stuff. But I grew up on the East Coast,
Ah,
and so it's just very familiar to me over here, hiking in the Adirondacks in upstate New York, where I live, and hiking on the Appalachian Trail and stuff. So originally, a large part of the appeal for doing the through hikes that I did was the novelty of the Western landscape and like just the grandness of the mountains out west.
yeah.
And yeah, that was a big part of my inspiration. And so I just don't really have that in the East because it's so familiar. So I worry that like if I set out to do the Appalachian Trail, then like my heart might not be in it, and I might not have the motivation and the drive to be able to do, you know, a 3 or 4 month hike or whatever it would take. I think, yeah, the first time that I ever saw um, the mountains out west was in 2015 when my girlfriend and I took a trip to the Cascades, the North
Right.
Cascades in Washington. We did like a week-long trip of car camping and day hiking. And never having seen a landscape like that before, I was basically blown away by it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that sort of like started me on my addiction to hiking, which eventually turned into my addiction for long distance hiking. Yeah, I was kind of just like instantly hooked on it. I was like, wow, a place like this exists.
Yeah,
It was just kind of unlike anything I had seen before. And for me, it was really new and interesting and novel.
yeah.
And so, yeah, 2015 was my first trip out west. And that inspired, and like, as soon as I got home, all I could think about was the next time I was going to go back, do another trip out west. So then the following summer, I planned the JMT. That was my first sort of long distance backpacking trip. And after that, like that was sort of like my gateway backpacking trip.
Right.
After that, it was sort of like
No, you're
any
addicted.
chance I had at like having a semi-normal existence was over, and I started like planning the PCT.
Yeah, I
Just like,
get that completely. I was just doing some writing, but one of the stories in there was about growing up, and I was trying to remember, you know, why, like you, I was so attracted to these mountains, and I was just recalling, you know, we just come out of the woods where I was raised, you know, and we jump on uh, this big RV. I was young at the time, a couple siblings and my parents drove out to my brother's wedding in Wyoming, you know, and we started seeing mountains along the way. I was like, wow, can we go there? Can we go there? No, it's not on the way. It's like, ah.
yeah,
And then, you know, like a zillion years later, I'm in the military and I get a chance to come out here to Colorado for some work. And I was just awestruck. I said, I got to do this. I got to find a way to move out here. And so the opportunity sprung up, and I ended up here in Colorado Springs. Yeah, but I get it. It was just this natural attraction. I had to be there. I had to be surrounded by big peaks. I had to just experience the awe of, you know, where I was at.
yeah,
Because, but like you know, I love being in the woods too. You know, I
yeah. You
was
know,
just,
there's a peacefulness to hiking in the
yeah,
woods, but it's just
yeah.
like not quite the same.
So you did this, what you call the Super Sierra High Route, kind of the Sierra High Route Plus.
Yes, the Sierra High Plus. Yeah,
And you did the PCT in the opposite direction, right? That most people go.
southbound.
Yeah. So to me, that kind of screamed for, this is kind of an unconventional guy, right? He doesn't seem to follow the pack. Kind of like invents his own adventure, and just goes for it. So is that a fair way to describe?
I guess you could say that, but like I wouldn't say that I'm particularly motivated by a need to be unconventional.
Uh-huh.
I would consider my motivations for doing the PCT southbound as pretty different from my motivations for like extending the Sierra High route. I think back when I was wanting to do the PCT, I was really motivated by the idea of solitude. And so naturally I gravitated toward the southbound direction because I think only 10% or so of PCT through hikers go southbound. So I thought, well, okay, if I, want to be all by myself for 4 months, then I better go southbound. But the thing about it is like, if you've never hiked that distance before, you may think beforehand that you want to actually be by yourself for 4 months. But then when you get out there, the reality sort of sinks in that maybe you might like a little bit of company. So I did like a lot of Washington by myself, although I was joined by somebody for the southern part of Washington. Then I did Oregon basically entirely by myself. But by the time I got to NorCal, I was burning out on the solitude, I think. And so I met up with a couple of other hikers who are now great friends of mine, and we've hiked more since then. And we did quite a bit of the rest of the PCT together. So I guess what I'm saying is I was really motivated by the idea of solitude when I was planning and gearing up for the PCT. But, that, by like the midpoint, that wasn't really as appealing. I guess. And, it's not like I think we all seek solitude when we go on these long hikes, and I still definitely do. But I guess I don't have this strong need to run away from people and be all by myself. So that's not like why I chose to do something like the Sierra High Route. I think my reasons for, doing the Sierra High route is just because of just how adventurous it is. And the reason that I wanted to extend it is really, well, the Sierra High route is like inspiring and really cool in its own right. And, why not just make it a little bit cooler, right? A little bigger, a little bit more, because the John Muir Trail extends down into the Southern Sierra and down into the Mount Whitney area, which to me is like the most exciting and inspiring area of the Sierra. And for some reason, the Sierra High Route, the Roper Sierra High Route, doesn't go down there. It goes off to the southwest, down into some other area of like Kings Canyon or whatever, and eventually ends down in at Rhodes End. And it misses, I think, a lot of the spectacular terrain of the Southern Sierra, which is, why Alan Dixon and I think Don Wilson, came up with the idea for the Southern Sierra High Route. I think it was 2015 or some number of years ago. They came up with their idea for the Southern Sierra High Route, which basically would go from Doozy Basin down to the Mount Whitney and Southern Sierra. Basically to make up for the fact that the actual Sierra High Route doesn't visit that area. Yeah. And I'm sure plenty of people at this point have combined the two routes, the Sierra High Route and the Southern Sierra High Route. So I think that's like a natural thing to want to do, to extend the Sierra High Route and take it down to Mount Whitney and the Southern Sierra. And so since we were doing that, we kind of just figured, why not tag a little bit onto the northern end as well. And the Yosemite High Route is kind of a newer route, and so it just had it was just interesting, the newness of it, and the novelty of like creating your own route and doing something that I'm pretty sure no one had done this exact combination of routes before, so there was a bit of an appeal.
And I remember one of the episodes on your PCT, you mentioned that, for the last few days, I want to punch out. I just want to be here no more. And then you get that little high rise and you see the, the beautiful scenery, and oh, maybe I'm changing my mind, but there's this balance between, completely awesome and totally suck, you know.
Yes.
And there's a little game that we play in our head about, you know, I've got to make the totally awesome be better than the totally suck, because, you know, I'm not going to make it to the end of this thing if I let the suck get to me, you know.
Yeah,
But
right. It's got to be like at least 60% awesome, 40% suck at least. If it's more, if the percentage of suck is higher than the percentage of awesome, then you probably need to reevaluate what you're doing. As far as that episode that you're talking about, yeah, that was somewhere in Northern California, and I think I was really pushing miles, and I was physically and mentally tired. But I think maybe the key thing here is that before I set off on the PCT, I, you know, sort of had a really rosy idea of what it was going to be like. Because, you know, whenever you read stories or watch videos of the long trails, it's always like portraying it sort of in this very romantic,
right.
idealized
Yep.
way.
Yep.
And I think I do that too, to an extent. And so I don't blame anyone for portraying the like through hiking in that way, because when I look back on the PCT, even though there were a lot of times that were really, I felt like crap and I wasn't enjoying myself, and there were some really tough days, when I look back on it as a whole experience, I don't think about those times. Like, I think about it sort of in the same romantic, idealized way that I was imagining it before I hiked it. So I think I just wasn't ready, like mentally, for the shitty days and like the struggling aspect of through hiking that is inherent to through hiking. Like, there's really no way around it. You're going to have days where you're tired, hungry, too cold, too hot, or just sick of it. Like, it's just part of the experience. And I think the contrast for me with the PCT and then the CDT is that with the CDT, I never had a single day where I actually considered quitting. And that's because I knew what I was getting myself into. And I knew that there were going to be times where I was not enjoying myself, but I knew that finishing the trail was important enough to me that I was willing to put up with those sucky sections.
It's going to be worth it, right?
Yeah, it was going to be worth it. Like, I knew it was worth it. On the PCT, like, I had never like finished a long trail before, so I didn't know like if it really was worth it. I was like, I remember I had a time where I was thinking like, you know, maybe I've gotten everything that I wanted to get out of this experience. Maybe I don't need to finish the trail. Maybe I just needed to come out here for a while and live in the mountains for a bit. But then when I did, you know, sort of push through that and finish the PCT, I realized that there is, you know, a lot of value for me in, you know, finishing what I set out to do. And it was really rewarding. And because when I was doing the CDT, I knew how rewarding it would be to finish. I think that's what, you know, sort of allowed me to push through the sucky times on the CDT.
So you do a lot of ultralight stuff, and there's obvious advantages, right? You take less weight off yourself, you can move faster, less impact to your body and all that. You know, there's some physiological reasons why you'd want to do that. But other people go a little bit deeper. It becomes actually a part of their life. You know, they live a minimalist life. Is it more than just I want to carry less? Is it bigger for you than that?
I think I definitely tend toward minimalism. Like, I wouldn't describe myself as a hardcore minimalist, but I like the idea of sort of like decluttering my life.
Yep.
And especially when I'm hiking. So I'm going to enjoy myself more if I'm not carrying a 40-pound pack. So obviously that's like the primary motivating factor, but also like if I don't have a bunch of crap that I'm carrying with me when I'm hiking, then yes, like my body feels lighter, but also like, it sounds kind of corny, but like your mind, your brain feels a little bit lighter too, just because you don't have like all of this junk that you have to keep track of. And I kind of like to bring that into my regular life, my non-hiking life as well, which I guess the initial inspiration was from ultralight backpacking. But I think, yeah, the idea of minimalism has sort of seeped into my off trail life as well. Like I try to, whenever I purchase anything, I always try to purchase with intention. Like I ask myself if I really need this, if I'm going to get a lot of use out of this, or if it's something that just is important to me. And yeah, I try just to not have too much stuff. Yeah, I think definitely minimalism is a part of my off-trail life too.
You know, I didn't really think about that until I started backpacking, you know, then I realized, you know, like you said, you ask the question, do I really need this in your
Yeah,
backpacking list? Yeah. And then you get back home and you start asking the same questions about
but others, yeah.
everything around you.
Yeah, I think when I first like got home from the PCT, I was like trying to like still live like I was on trail, but like
Yeah.
in a house and like in society and stuff. Like I was still like carrying around my little Ziploc bag wallet. And I was using like a lot of my same trail stuff, even though it was all like smelly and gross. Yeah, yeah, there's definitely a balance between like being comfortable and still being minimalist, like in your daily life.
Yeah.
But I live maybe like a mile and a half or two from the grocery store, and I live in Rochester, New York, and we get pretty heavy winters.
Yeah.
And so I would walk with my freaking backpack to the grocery store and walk back like in a blizzard. And for some reason, like a few years ago, I had a much higher tolerance for that.
As you get older, believe me.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do that anymore. Like I've definitely gotten a little bit soft. I think now I drive to the store.
Yeah. And I eventually ended up, you know, because my life gets too busy now, and I think it's just, you know, if I'm honest, I make my life busy, you know, and there's one thing that I do when I get off trail is it just reminds me of the way I would rather live. Was you mentioned decluttered, you know, just gonna take all the noise out of my life and just focus on the good stuff. And
Sure.
and if there's one thing the trail has taught me, it's that is, you know, it reminds me of what's important, and everything else just doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things you learn from doing long hikes is how little you need to be content.
Yeah.
And that's so important.
Yeah.
And that really, ends up applying to every aspect of your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely encounter people who look at me like, why would you do that? I think, yeah, it was maybe a week or two ago. I was rock climbing at my climbing gym, and I was meeting someone for the first time, and we were just doing basic introduction, small talk type stuff. And it's always funny, like when I tell somebody about my long hikes for the first time, because I'm just like waiting to see their reaction, because everyone is always like confused, like why would you do that? And this was exactly the reaction I got from this person. I was like, yeah, I've done some kind of long hikes. I did the Pacific Crest Trail, which goes all the way from Canada to Mexico, and then I did the Continental Divide Trail, which goes all the way from Mexico to Canada. And both of those were about 4 month journeys. And then I look and I just sort of see like a blank expression. And she's like, why would you do that? I don't know. Like I've been getting into climbing the last couple of years, and I definitely get the appeal of outdoor sports that are like inherently more physically challenging. But it hasn't made me less interested in just walking really far. So I don't know. I guess it takes a certain kind of person. You either like walking really far or you don't.
And that's another thing too that trail has taught me, is that everyone is kind of their own little island, doing their own thing for their own reasons, and that's okay. That's great. You know.
Yeah, you'll hear a lot of different motivations when you talk to people as to why they're out there doing a long trail.
Yeah. What's planned for the rest of this year? Any long hikes? Any new adventures? Anything?
Yeah, I'm headed to the Southwest too, actually. I'm doing the Grand Enchantment Trail.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
yeah, Phoenix to Albuquerque.
So when it's getting late, when are you heading down there?
2 week, 2 week.
Okay.
We're starting April 1st, which is a little bit late in the season for the Grand Enchantment Trail, but yeah, it's still in the acceptable range. We're a little bit worried because it hasn't been a very wet year in the Southwest.
Right.
I don't think for you either in Colorado, right?
No, it's the snowpack I think is above average, but when you get down here in the foothills and in the plains, pretty dry. We just had a good dump of snow a few days ago. You know, in March and April are typically our heavy months for snow. So hopefully we'll get a couple more blasts of some pretty heavy wet snow to get us out of this drought area, because what that means for us in a few months is more forest fires. You know, and so that's the only thing that bothers me about the drought. It really isn't that it's dry. It's more that, you know, dry leads to fires and other things. And
you know what's interesting about snowpack and forest fires is my assumption used to be that if you had a really heavy winter, then you would have fewer forest fires.
No.
But like I learned on the PCT that that's not always the case, because the West Coast got a massive winter in 2017. And at first I was happy about this going southbound, because I was thinking, okay, well, that means I'm probably not going to have to deal with too many fires. But I had to deal with, I mean, you probably remember 2017 was like a crazy fire. It seems like every year is a crazy fire season nowadays, but 2017 was particularly bad. And I think that's because the heavy snowpack, when that melted, it obviously created a bunch of water, which caused the more plants to grow, which would be more fuel for the fires to eventually burn. And I think maybe that's because, like, even though the winter was heavy, like spring was pretty hot. And so that's like can also be a really dangerous combination.
Yeah. There's a few different factors. It's you know, when does the snow come? How fast does it melt? You know, how hot is your spring? You know, and you're right about the fuel. When you do get a lot of rain, it creates more fuel. And then if you get a really hot spell after that, or a dry spell after that, then that's great conditions for fires. So yeah, it's more than just snowpack. It's a combination of a few things. Yeah.
So, but as far as the Grand Enchantment Trail is concerned, I hope that the Southwest starts getting some more precipitation in the next couple of weeks or so. But
yeah, what I was reading,
water situation a little easier.
Yeah, what I was reading, and I don't have probably nearly half the information I need here, but their monsoonal season, I think, is in like January and February-ish, earlier in the year. And they said that was pretty light this year. But I don't know what follows that. I don't know if that's the whole story about their, you know, the majority of the rain for the year. I don't know. But I started reading that about a month ago, is that their monsoonal patterns were pretty light this year. So,
yeah, that's my understanding. I mean, I know people still do hike it in the fall, in September, October, which I would assume is even drier than a late spring hike.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. I've been watching videos of people that have gone on before me in the previous couple weeks, and there seems to be, you know, adequate supply out there for now. But a lot can change in 2 weeks out there. You know, it can evaporate pretty quickly. So
yeah, if I remember correct, the Arizona Trail is pretty good with water caches.
Yeah.
I think at a lot of trailheads there would be these bear boxes, and trail angels would leave caches in them, so it's pretty nice.
Yeah, they have a pretty good trail angel community here that keep those places stocked, especially trailheads that are more easily accessible. You know.
Yeah.
So the area that I'm going into, I'm not really concerned about it. I think there'll be a couple days when we'll be a little bit heavier carry than others, but you know, it just shouldn't be too bad.
The section just north of where you'll be finishing is pretty dry.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
the section that you're doing is a little bit better.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I have
That's
to do some kind of big carries, but I think it should be manageable.
okay. Anything else besides Enchantment that you'll be going on this year?
Uh, I don't know. I don't have any like really hard plans. I'm kind of trying to sort of transition away from um, the really long hikes into stuff that is more compatible with like more of a regular stable life. So
So you want stability, huh?
I wouldn't say I necessarily want stability. I think flexibility is still more appealing, but
Yeah,
I don't know. Like it's going on a 4 month hike is like a really disruptive thing,
it is.
right?
Yeah.
So like once you get back, you sort of have to like put your life back together. And yeah, I don't know. Just I don't know if I am still attracted to that whole process.
Yeah.
Like I think I can still get like really good experiences out of shorter hikes. Like the Super Sierra High Route was, one of my like some of the most fun that I've ever had hiking, and that was only like a 3 week hike
Yeah.
as opposed to 3 or 4 months. So I think I don't know. Now that I've done 2 really long hikes, I'm not sure that I need to do that necessarily to, feel like I had like a full or a complete or a worthwhile hiking experience. I think I can get a lot of what I want from like sort of more bite-sized trips.
That's refreshing. I talk to a lot of thru hikers that are just still all about, spend as much time on a trail for as long as possible, and that's kind of the thing, and that's great. But um, uh, the 40 days that I spent on the Colorado Trail was probably the best experience I've had in a long time.
Well, that's still a
Um,
really long time. Like people,
yeah,
just
but
because people do 2,000, 3,000 mile trails, that doesn't mean like 30 or 40 days out is not a really long time. I
yeah,
mean, at
it's
that point, you're living out there.
yeah. So and what I've finally settled on for myself, because it took me a while to kind of process this. How much of this do I want? Really, how much of this will I really enjoy?
Mhm.
And still not affect other relationships and things in my life. And I'm getting content with, give me a week, give me a couple weeks, and I'm good. If I can do that a couple times a year, like that's what I did last year. I spent 100 miles in Arizona. Then I did a 100-mile trek here in Colorado on part of the Colorado Trail that I didn't do last time, the Eastern Collegiates last year.
How was the Eastern Collegiate? I imagine it's not quite as cool as the Collegiate West, right?
Well, that's what a lot of people think, and that's what you read a lot about out there.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that's actually the case.
well, so if you want to be at alpine level and have the alpine experience, um, the eastern route is not the way to go.
Okay. Yeah.
But if it's still a great trail. You get a lot of good ups and downs. You get actually a lot of really good views.
Hmm.
I think the variety is a lot better on the eastern side. You
Oh,
know,
really?
yeah,
Okay.
because you get into these really thick, deep forests, and then once in a while you'll pop out in this open expanse and get some great mountain views. So uh, the water supply is a little bit better on the eastern side than what it is on the west.
Makes sense.
But I enjoyed both sides. But just for different reasons.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so what I tell people is, don't listen to all the talk about the West is better than the East. Really kind of understand about what each route is, what it is, and then figure out which one you would enjoy more this time, you
Yeah.
know,
For
and
sure.
and and do that. I don't think either side's bad. Some people do the loop, the collegiate loop,
Mhm.
and that's pretty cool. That's 200 something miles.
Yeah.
and so you get the best of both if you want to do that, you know. So yeah, I think both sides are great. They're just for different reasons, you know.
Cool. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on my CDT hike. I did the Collegiate West, but I was actually I did the Collegiate West with the Mirror Lake alternate.
Okay.
But I was really on the fence when I was in town deciding what I wanted to do because the snow levels were still really high.
Over Salida.
Yeah, in Salida. And I knew a lot of people were choosing to do Collegiate East that year.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I was swayed by the people who were saying, you know, don't do Collegiate East, Collegiate West that's the way to go. That's where all the good views are. Yeah. And Collegiate West was really nice, so I don't regret having done it, but I think I would have had an easier time on Collegiate East, that's for sure.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, I don't know. I really don't know.
That's an answer. Yeah.
I mean, for the last 5 years, I pretty much haven't planned my life more than 6 months in advance. So, and that was almost kind of like my motto. So thinking 5 years in advance is a challenge for me, but let's see if I can do my best to come up with an answer.
I don't know. I don't know is an answer. So, you know, so don't.
Well, I don't know is the most
accurate
answer, I think. But I can try to BS something. I already talked a little bit about how I kind of am like in my mind moving away from really long hikes into more manageable distances that can sort of fit into a regular lifestyle. Really what would be awesome for me is if I could eventually move somewhere where I'm able to get in these sort of bite-sized adventures throughout the year. Because I think part of the reason that I end up wanting to go on these really long hikes is that I live in upstate New York, and so I get really cooped up. I don't have like a lot of outlets for outdoor adventure except like the Adirondacks. And I get to the Adirondacks, you know, a good handful of times every year, and it is beautiful there, but like it doesn't necessarily like satisfy my desire to go like hike out west like we talked about. So it'd be nice if I could find somewhere that would work for me and for my partner, that we could live somewhere that was that had a little more to offer in the outdoor adventure department. Since I started long distance hiking, I funded all of my hikes by being a substitute teacher. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you knew that. I don't think I've ever talked about it on the channel or anything, but and that's worked out fine. It turned out that it's actually like sort of the ideal through hiking job because of like it's just as flexible as you want it to be.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's the downside is that you're a substitute teacher.
and financially, it's not a big move, right?
Well, it's not particularly lucrative, no. But you know, I started doing it right when I was out of college. I sort of fell into it, and I, you know, just sort of stumbled upon this realization that it would be like perfect for allowing me to do these long hikes. Yeah, but just in the last year or so, I have become more interested in doing video stuff, and not just with the YouTube channel. Like the YouTube channel, it does bring in like a little bit of money, but I think it would be a while before it was anything that I could actually consider like even a second income stream.
Right.
I did do this past year, I did some professional video work, and that was really fun. Like I really liked working as a videographer in a professional setting. So I could see myself maybe wanting to move more in that direction.
Well, that was my interview with Dan. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed being a part of it. And please go to his channel and subscribe and watch his videos there. He's got some great stuff going on. Looking forward to hearing from you. See you next time.